Love is the most wonderful thing a human being can experience. And for most people who are in relationships, marriage is considered an end goal. However, the honest truth is that marriage is just the beginning of the journey. However, some couples do not get to see what they have that way, as most couples end up thinking their good deeds to one another as a duty instead. Because of this, the magic behind a marriage can just as easily die out. However, even in the most desperate situations, the right push from the right source can end up changing everything back to the way it should be. Greetings, salutations, and welcome to our channel. Today, we will be covering the story of Helen and Sam, two lovebirds who found their marriage on the rocks as time passed by. As always, do not forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Make sure to press that notification bell button as well in order to ensure that you never miss a single one of our uploads. Without further ado, let us dive into the story. It has been 5 years since Helen and Sam got married. Due to their busy lifestyle, they have not gotten around to having children. As time passed by, Sam found his interest and passion towards his wife dwindle, as he started focusing other priorities instead, and it was clear to Helen that he was unhappy in his own way. Because of this, Helen thought of a wonderful plan to make Sam find happiness in life again. At least, that was what she believed would happen. During this time, the FIFA World Cup was taking place in another city, as Helen managed to secure tickets to the event for both him and her. Due to the huge number of people that travelled from outer cities to watch the World Cup, all the hotels and motels were preoccupied. However, Helen thought ahead, as she made arrangements for them to stay at the comfortable house of a relative that happened to live in the countryside, that was relatively close by to the city where the World Cup was held. These developments brought nothing but joy to Sam, as he was so excited to see one of the most exciting shows of his favourite sports live, as well as finally get some time for himself that he can consider a vacation. It started out amazingly, as the couple attended the matches together as they stood and cheered their favourite teams on. They even went out after each match in order to talk about how the match went. However, with each passing day, they started noticing the cracks in their relationship. Helen began to notice how Sam wanted to spend most of his time walking around the city instead of spending time with her in the countryside home they stayed in. He was amazed at all the fans that arrived at the venue to watch the match, as he spent time watching them or getting to know them. Helen, on the other hand, was having her hands full at the house they were staying at in the countryside. After all, this was not the comfortable house they owned in the city. This was a house in the countryside where the comfort levels are considerably lower. Helen had to spend additional time with the cooking, cleaning, and other chores around the house. One day, after watching another exciting football match, Sam and Helen found themselves back at their usual restaurant where they always dined at in the area. As Sam was trying to enjoy his meal, he suddenly noticed a dark-haired brunette who was sitting with another gentleman a few tables back away from them. Sam took his time, looking at her and then looking back at his wife before sighing. This confused Helen, but a couple of seconds after the action, Sam spoke. "God, why did you send me such an unkempt woman?" "Helen, look at the sexual splendor that woman is exuding, and then look at yourself. You should at least take the time to style your hair in an attractive way. Yes, we need to go for football matches more often as well." Helen was taken aback by the words that came out of her beloved husband's mouth, but she kept silent. The very next day, the World Cup finally ended, as the married couple found themselves returning back to their hometown. Sam seemingly had returned to normal when they reached home, but he started acting peculiarly when he spent time at home. One day, when Helen sneaked behind Sam to surprise him and tease him, she happened to notice Sam looking at his phone intensely. Taking a peek from behind, she saw what was on the display, and it was none other than pictures of beautiful models from all over the internet. Helen couldn't believe her eyes, as the revelation eventually turned into a fight that escalated. The fight caused Sam to leave the house, slamming the door behind him. A few hours passed as Helen received a message from Sam, claiming that he will be spending some time with his father, away from home for some time. While this caused distress within Helen, she decided not to call and give him space. As Sam made his way to his parents' house, he found himself spending more time with his father, as he constantly complained to his father about all the things that he found to be annoying about his wife. "You know, Dad, I'm very tired of my wife. Imagine, for every holiday, she never does her hair, and she never bothered to do her makeup when we decided to go out together. The only thing she seems to care about is what could be cooked for dinner. I hoped things could be different, but the truth is, I want a beautiful wife. What should I do, Father? Did I make a mistake with this marriage?" Sam found himself letting everything out to his father, as the father listened intently. At the end, he smiled and gave his son some advice. "Son, I'm grateful that you came for me for advice, especially about something as important as this. I've been married for quite some time now, and believe me when I tell you, I've seen a lot. Son, I'm sorry to say this, but the problem is not really with your wife. The problem is really with you. As a man, and as your father, I want to give you 3 key pieces of advice that you must promise me that you will never forget. If you listen to them and live accordingly, I promise you that things will change. Number 1 is whenever you come home from work, always bring her flowers and surprise her. Make sure that she always feels loved and cherished. Number 2 is for you to always take the time to help your wife with household chores and be kind to her. Number 3 is the most important. Make your wife feel important to your life. Buy her new clothes or let her go to beauty salons. Trust me on this, everything will change." Sam was taken aback at all of this information. As he pondered on everything that his father told him, he nodded as he promised to follow his father's advice to the dot. A few days after this conversation, Sam returned home to Helen. Inwardly, Helen was ecstatic to see her beloved husband back at home again, but she did not approach him and ask how he was doing. The day went by awkwardly, as Sam decided to follow his father's advice the very next day in the evening. After all, he promised. He bought Helen a bouquet of garden daisies. He knew that Helen adored garden daisies and that it was the same kind of flowers that she had requested for their wedding. As he came back home, he went straight to Helen with a smile on his face and presented the bouquet to her. "Helen, this is for you. I want you to know that you are the most beautiful woman in the world to me. I am truly sorry for all the unpleasant things I told you these past few weeks. Everything will change in our life from now on. Please, trust me." Helen was pleasantly surprised, as she was moved to tears. All she managed to let out without breaking down crying was a simple, "Let's have dinner." As they happily ate dinner, Helen stood up as she took all of their plates to the sink and placed them there to be washed. As Helen turned towards the sink and was just about to start washing, Sam walked up to her as he hugged her from behind. Grinning, he whispered in her ear, "Helen, please, let me. You are not my servant. You are my wife. I told you things will change from today onwards, and change starts even with things like this. From now on, we will always take turns when it comes to doing dishes, and it's my turn today. Trust me, it's been long overdue." As Sam finished washing up the dishes, both of them stepped into the living room as Sam asked Helen to sit on the armchair. When Sam finished all the household chores, he walked up to Helen as he put a large sum of money on the table beside the armchair. "You've been working hard lately, and you barely had time to take care of yourself. It is all yours. Spend the money and maybe you can get yourself some clothes. Oh, also do not forget to make a trip to the beauty salon. I want to take you out tonight. It's been a while since we had a date for ourselves," Sam said, with a warm smile on his face, as he let Helen leave the living room excitedly. Sam spent time at the house, doing what needs to be done until the clock read 7 p.m. Sam got ready for their date, as he waited by the staircase and asked Helen to come downstairs in order to depart for their date. When Helen reached the staircase, Sam was stunned. Helen looked absolutely beautiful in a luxurious dress as she slowly came down the steps. It took him a few seconds to realize exactly how beautiful his wife really was. He excitedly took Helen by her hand as they both got in the car as Sam started the engine. As Sam drove to the restaurant, he could not help but acknowledge that his father was right all along. He recalled the end of the conversation that he had with his father. Why does your wife not have time to take care of herself? It's because she has to do all the household chores and the cooking. A wife is not a servant, but a faithful companion for the rest of a man's life in all his happy and sad moments. Therefore, you must always get on well with her. You'll be happy then. In the restaurant, Sam could not help but feel proud of Helen, as he realized that even though 5 years had passed since they got married, there are many more things to come. However, he had utmost faith that when they do come, they will face them together. That marks the end of the story of Sam and Helen. So, what do you think about this story? Let us know in the comments down below, and as always, if you like this story, please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more stories just like this. Be sure to share this as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.